I know Ann is pretty modest, so I won't waste your time by letting you know that Ann is one of the most illustrious Hong Kong directors working today. She has a long list of every possible award in the Hong Kong film industry, but we'll skip that. But it is very important for me to tell you that and to tell you all that Ann Hui is a longtime friend of the Vancouver Film Festival. We're so pleased not only to have her beautiful new film here, but to have Ann herself here spending the week with us as the Dragons and Tigers jury member. Thank you, Ann.
Thank you.
Maybe I'll just start with one question, and then I'm sure you all stayed, so you all have a lot of things to ask. Tell us a bit about how the project originated, what drew you to the project, and how you got involved with it.
Roger Lee, who's the producer of Summer Snow in 1995, he told me last year that he had a project he thought I would like to do, and it's his story with his maid, which is this story. So he wrote down quite a lot of notes, and when I saw the notes, I said, I really would like to shoot that. So we started preparation on the movie and asked Susan to write the script. And then we started shooting early this year.
Would anybody like to start? It's a very big room, so if you could speak your question loudly, just wave your hand and I can pick you, or I can ask another. While you're thinking, I think many of you want to know, you've told a story with a very quiet, sensitive voice, and you've used two very big stars in the Hong Kong film industry, Deanie Yip and, of course, Andy Lau, who's also a producer. Tell me what it was like working with them, and what kind of instructions, what kind of work did you do with them to prepare them to act in this way, in these particular, rather small-scale, but deeply felt, deeply emotional kind of roles?
I don't remember telling them exactly the style. I mean, it just evolved. I mean, we went through the script. In fact, we started from details. In fact, they were very tough to work with, but it's good because they're tough, because they know exactly what they're doing, and they're really inventive. In fact, some of the scenes were improvised. I mean, although we've got a script and it's been written several times, especially that scene in the park, it was basically improvised.
I'll just repeat that briefly if you couldn't hear. The question is about, again, Ann working with the producer of the film, Roger Lee, because the questioner noted that Roger Lee was also a producer of Ann's film, Summer Snow, which also has a section set in a nursing home, just like this one. So the question is, what was it like working with Roger Lee?
In fact, he involved much more in this film, of course, because this set was, the house is this real house. And in fact, all the locations, most of them, except for the nursing home, is actually the place where Tou Jie has gone with Roger. The park and the streets and the house at Mei Fu, they're all actually Roger's home. So, I mean, he's got to be involved. And the material is given by him. In Summer Snow, I mean, he acted very much as an encouraging producer more than, here he is also very encouraging, but he's much more creatively involved. As for the nursing home, in the previous film, the nursing home was seen as a much more desolate and unhappy place. But here, because we were very involved with the people who were living there and with the nurses, and although the place looks very uninviting because it's very cramped. In fact, it was already not the most cramped in that area. But because the people who lived there and the nurses were so nice and so supportive, and really the half of the old people there are the real residents. And so, in fact, my own feeling is much more upbeat and encouraging than in the previous movie.
The question was, because the English part of the question, which is 90%. This is a low-budget movie, although Andy Lau, he heard, helped with the financing. And so the question is then, what kind of a box office or response does Anne expect locally in Hong Kong? And is it the kind of movie that can maybe earn back its investment?
Usually this kind of film doesn't sell, but there are surprises. I mean, like Summer Snow is very much like this film, but it sold very well. So we were hoping for the best. Yes.
Just and a major prize from Venice Film Festival really helps the box office too, I think,
Yes.
doesn't it? Just to move away from money to more of a theme for a second. Speaking of Summer Snow, Hong Kong cinema has a wide range of topics, but there are very few Hong Kong films about middle-aged or elderly women and their lives. And you've done Summer Snow, you've done The Postmodern Life of My Aunt, you've done this one. What is it particularly about lives of women, and in particular lives of not 20-something beautiful young thin women, that makes you want to focus your filmmaking on them at this stage?
Well, like this film, you see, it's actually a present from Roger. I mean, I didn't choose the subject. I mean, the subject came to me. I mean, the answer is quite obvious why I should like to shoot these old women, because I myself am an old woman. I can obviously feel more for them and know how to react. I mean, know how to work with them. I mean, so that's very understandable. Well, she was in a very bad mood the first time she got into that place. In fact, I mean, I myself, I mean, I thought that Art House there should be some episodes about her not behaving so sweetly. It would give the character more color, actually.
Yeah.
So you can repeat the title. Yeah. Do you think this topic of aging is growing in importance in the Chinese community? I don't know if it is in Hong Kong or certainly here. I think it is because of the population today.
The question is, does Ann Hui think the topic of aging is of growing importance in the Chinese community? The questioner points out that it's quite important here in North America and wonders if it's similar in Hong Kong.
I think it's getting much more attention because there are more. Because like when I went to a big hospital in Hong Kong for treatment, like the QM, it's a world apart and it's never represented in films. Like the old people, they're very seldom represented in films. That's all. But it's not that it's not a problem before.
You mentioned that this was, of course, based on a true story in a lot of details. I'm wondering if there were important things that you didn't tell in this story that were from the true story. Maybe that's not appropriate. Or if there were things you invented here that you thought would make the film work more as a film that weren't actually part of Roger Lee and his maid's real experience.
How far apart it is from the true story?
Well, Roger told me that the part about going to the gala premiere, I mean, it's fiction. I mean, he hasn't brought her there, and then he felt sort of remorseful, so he wrote, he'll bring her there, I mean, in the film. But we have quite a lot of material. We cut out maybe 6 scenes because it was overlong, but it's got to do with Roger's characterization. Like his going to a brand name which was not known in Hong Kong, but very expensive to buy his clothes to offset the other scene. But we cut that out because it's too long.
Yeah, over here.
I noticed that there was a lot of cameo stars. Were they like eager to just help out? Is that why you had so many?
So the question was, you know, the viewer noticed, I'm sure a lot of you noticed a lot of cameos, famous Hong Kong stars, or directors like Chai Hak and Sammo Hung. How did that come about?
It's really necessity. I mean, I feel it's necessary in a way, because like the script has lots of one-to-one scenes of Roger with a guy, and the guy it's got very, very long dialogue and very important, but he never appears again. If we just cast anybody or someone who doesn't act well, it doesn't hold the interest. So the first person we thought is to ask Anthony Wong to play the owner. And that started everything. And they were not eager but glad to help.
Took some persuading then, Choi Hark and Sammo Hung in the Beijing scenes.
The story with Choi is very funny because everybody thought that he was too busy or he wouldn't like to act. And the moment we asked him, he thought he would, but then he felt it was too much a parody of himself, too truthful to his own image. So he said, well, I seem to admit that I'm like that. I said, if you play, then it's like a parody of yourself. So people believe that you're not like that.
Except all mainland investors are now going to know exactly the trick he uses.
And you know the guy who's playing the boss, he's actually the boss of this movie.
Don't be fooled if you're investing in a Choi Hark. There's a couple of questions. First on the aisle, and then we'll go in. Yeah.
With some Hong Kong film receiving national attention now, how do you feel the Hong Kong movie industry is heading? Is it going in another direction, or do you feel like there's no change? Actually, I got another question as well.
Let's do one at a time. I'll come back.
Yeah, it's like I feel if the attention which this film has been getting is very encouraging. Like because people stop investing or mostly stop investing in local-made Hong Kong movies, and our filmmakers here, I mean including myself, feel that we ought to make local movies. But the thing is to make a local movie which has universal feelings. It's not like just shooting the local sightseeing and local food and things like that, but the people with feelings which might reach a larger audience. And so if people like this film, then there will be lots more investments of local films, hopefully.
Did you do some modifications of the screenplay while you were shooting or before it came to shooting? How much of those words, for example, are your words?
Roger has a raw material, not a script, but the material is very detailed. We base very much on this material, but the whole thing is done by Susan. And so it's shaped. I mean, even if the dialogue is word for word like reality, it's been structured and made and given a rhythm by the scriptwriter.
That's Susan Chan.
Yeah, Susan, and so it's not really you stick with the raw material.
Mention a couple of the senior actors. Yeah.
Some of them were big stars before, either in TV or film. The Gin Sok is a very famous actor, you know that. And then Leung Tin played in television before. And Hui Souying, the Mui Gu, has worked in Fong Yuk-ping's movie and has gotten a Best Actress Award in 1983. In fact, we have 4 Best Actresses working in this movie, including Chen Hailu, who's Choi Gu-lau. She also got a Hong Kong Film Award. So, but then we have 8 old people, including the 2 old gentlemen who exchanged false teeth. They were cast from a theatre group of the aged. Non-professional, but they played in theatre expressly for old ladies and gentlemen who acted in local plays. So we cast 8 of them, and then the rest is actually from the old people's home, non-actors. Like the guy who is always sitting at the door, he's not cast, but he sat there, so we let him sit there. Really. He's a little bit retarded, but then he got sharper and sharper and knew how to act, actually, even by the end. So we were very pleased, yeah.
There's also a little bit of satire of the Hong Kong politicians who come in and basically exploit these old people. Is that from True to Life?
That, according to Roger, is actually what happened. But it's not politicians, it's the showbiz, the TV station.
The question was about the timing, the pace of the film. He finds your pacing, typical Hong Kong films that a lot of people watch are fast. You have your own rhythm in this film. Could you talk about how you designed and shaped the rhythm and the pace of the film?
Oh no, it's not deliberate. It's like they just I actually have to thank the cameraman because both he and the lighting man were so. I think they were so selfless and devoted. Like they just set up lights everywhere, and they can shoot any time, any position. So it affects the sort of the quality of the photography. But they said in this film we have to grab whatever we can. Because a lot of the thing is shot almost like documentary. Like the dinner scene, we just shot it twice with 2 cameras. And so they just try to grab things, and then if there's a rhythm which is determined, it's done by the editor later, because we shot a lot of footage. But I didn't sort of say you must like, but obviously if you shoot at an old people's home and with lots of old people, the rhythm will follow their action, you know.
We're probably nearing the end of our time because Anne is in between seeing 2 films that she has to be a jury member for. Maybe one more question if someone has one before we wrap up. Yeah.
What is your next project then?
That question is perfect closing question. What's your next project?
I'm working on that. We have roughly will also be like sort of a present day realistic subject. Thank you very much for your interest in